What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. And today I am looking ahead to KSW 77, one of the final big European cards of the year. And you know what? It's been a very interesting year for, I suppose, European MMA, for KSW, for Cage Warriors, for Bellator Europe, which kind of half exists, I suppose, with Ireland anyway, and a bit of the UK. But also PFL coming in as well. And I think, you know, I suppose as we get to the end of the year, we'll be having a lot of these conversations. But you could argue that the fight atop this card at KSW 77 is the biggest of them all. Maybe the biggest in terms of weight, but also the biggest in terms of just anticipation, in terms of when we heard it was announced and now it's happening. And it's Mamed Khalidov, the legend, against Mariusz Pudzianowski. We'll get to that in a second. I just want to start by kind of maybe talking for a little bit about what I just said about KSW, their place in European MMA, and the fact that European MMA is so big. It's a scene, I think, in Poland that is maybe underreported in, like, the, you know, I suppose the English speaking media, and, you know, our Twitter and our internet, I suppose. I'm very lucky. My guy Sean Dinny, who works over in Severe MMA and covers this very, very well. He always helps me out with these cards and with the pronunciations, but covers it very, very well as well. I think he's the go-to guy. But there isn't loads of people doing it. And if you look at, say, like the success that KSW has had, the ability to keep very good fighters like Khalidov, and even Pudzianowski now, who's 24 fights deep and has won 17 of those. And, you know, that this is his place, I suppose, but him less than Khalidov. But look, Soldic is only just gone, and they were paying him such a good wage. Look at how long Gamrot stayed as well. You know, people like, even like Norman Park went over and has fought for a long time in KSW and other places in Eastern Europe. I think that scene, it's probably like the most thriving scene in the world without a big media behind it. Like, you even see this year now, and in the last couple of years, maybe One Championship have got a lot of media. Obviously, all the American promotions have got a lot of media. You see KSW, obviously myself, and a few other people in Ireland and the UK covering the sport have got a lot of media as well. Now, there might be a lot of Eastern European, Polish media covering it, absolutely. You know, not in our language, and that I would see all the time. So I think it's a very interesting one, because like we look at, say, like the best promotions in the world, or even the, you know, the Chasing Packer. We look at the best promotions in Europe, and sometimes KSW can kind of get bypassed, or people don't talk about it enough. And, you know, we really should. And I've tried to talk about it a lot this year. I've obviously broken down you know, I would say probably most of their cards now in here in previews, and I think there probably should be more. I really do. Like, if you look at it now, there's, I suppose maybe Risen is another one. It's at really bad time for me, especially, but I know for the US as well, it's at kind of a bad time. That's another one that is maybe a little bit underappreciated, underreported. Like, you see when this Bellator Risen card was announced, like, a lot of people didn't know who the Bellator people were fighting were, and that's just being honest. Not to say that they're not good fighters, not to say that they won't win or put on a good show or anything like that, but that's just, I think, a simple fact of the matter, even for people who watch a lot of the sport and know a lot about the sport worldwide. And I think the same would probably be said for a lot of these fighters in KSW. Even for myself, you know, covering the cards and looking through them, it's been a bit of you know, it's been a bit of an education. Another thing about that as well, though, it's like there is only so much time in the day. There are only so many fighters you can concentrate on, so many cards you can concentrate on, so many promotions you can concentrate on. And it feels like sometimes KSW don't need it, you know? It feels like they're doing so well by themselves, they don't need us, or they don't need anyone talking about them. They're very, very well capable of doing it themselves. And that is both a compliment, but also a little bit unfair, I suppose. We should be talking about them anyway, and that's what I'm here today to do. But like, you look at KSW and what they do with, like, big sellout shows, stadium shows in the past, you know, putting on a different sort of shows. What I always talk about for PFL and One Championship, they do something a little bit different, you know. And you only have to look at Mariusz Pudzianowski's picture here on Sherdog and you can see it's very, very different. But they put on a show. I love their entrances and their MC, the way, you know, the mic drops and he says it in like a, you know, like this summer, you know, one of those guys announcing a movie or something. I really, really like that. And I think the more different you can be, while not being kind of passé or whatever you might want to call it, I think the better. Like, I think the fact that one championship has different rule sets, do things differently with the way, maybe the way cuts maybe not great, but the way PFL have the season, I think Bellator have done a good job in certain aspects, the way with the walkouts and what they've done in Hawaii and Ireland, and in Cage Warriors as well, doing it the way they do it, with sending people over to the UFC and building people up. KSW didn't do it very differently as well, with everything I just mentioned there, but also with the sort of the fighters they have. They're kind of getting away from maybe the freak show fights a little bit, and they have, you know, there's other promotions, sister promotions and stuff, that kind of have them maybe more than KSW, but their production value, the money they pay and everything like that, it is very, very good. And I think the MMA scene is a better scene with KSW involved, and long may it continue. And this is one of the biggest fights, the most interesting fights they've ever put on. Mariusz Pudzianowski against Mamed Khalidov. Pudzianowski, obviously 5-time world strongest man, 13 main events in KSW, 17-6 in KSW, you know, gets up towards the heavyweight limit, has 9 knockouts now on his record, 3 submissions, big power, as we know, has won, I think, 5 knockouts now in a row, and he's improved an awful lot. He's become a good fighter. He's a decent wrestler who, if he gets on top of you, he's so strong, obviously, and so powerful, very, very hard to move. And I think what happened during the summer, I think it was back in May, it turned him around, I think, for a lot of people, when he knocked out Michel Materla. Materla, if anyone knows Materla, he's a legitimate fighter, and he's been a legitimate fighter for years. And he was obviously going up in weight, but Pudzianowski knocked him out in mad fashion. You know, he decimated him. And I think that kind of changed a lot for Pudzianowski. I think he gained a lot of respect from people in the know. He deserved respect before that, absolutely. But I think he went out and he earned himself even more respect with that win. And that was really, really good. Like, it showed his improvements. It showed he can strike, he can wrestle. He's not just a guy, if he luckily gets on top, you can't get him off you and he's going to win. He can fight. Mariusz Pudzianowski can fight. Obviously, he's getting up there in age, but he can fight. And so can Mamed Khalidov. He has 40-odd fights more. Former middleweight champion. This would be his 20th win in KSW if he can get it. 16 finishes, 18 main events. He's lost a few fights. I think he's 0-3 in this arena. I was talking to my good friend Sean Nini about this. We know what he's like. If you've seen Khalidov before, very, very good kickboxer, very good power, offensively, very good wrestling. He's won a few fights by submission, as I mentioned, as well. Beat Scott Askham with arguably the knockout of the year. Was it last year or the year before? It was a massive knockout. And it's a very, very interesting fight, because you have the smaller guy, the more skilled guy, you would say, against the big guy who now has skills, who has the power, who has everything. And to think about who's going to win that fight is a very, very interesting thing, because I think, like, if you look at it and you kind of break this down, I suppose, you have to be a bit wary if you're Khalidov and you see what happened to Materla the last time out, because there's no way you can now go in there and just say, right, I'm going to kind of do what I want with this guy. He's not going to be fast enough. He's not going to be able to hit me. He's not going to be able to land that big power shot. I'll just be able to kind of do what I want with this guy, because Materla is a younger fighter than the Khalidov, probably faster at this stage of his career, a very, very good striker and all that as well. And if he can't do that, it's very, very tough to, no, well, it's tough to see him doing it, not necessarily, but tough to like be 100% behind that game plan, in terms of like, well, this is how I'm kind of easily going to game plan my way to winning this fight. And it's a massive fight. It's a massive fight for both guys. It really, really is, because like, and we'll talk in a second more about the actual fight itself, but like for Khalidov, it's not been the best time for him over the last while. He lost to Soldic, but that big left hook knockout Then we had the aforementioned switch kick knockout of the year. It was actually 2020. Jesus, it only feels like last year. And then there was 3 in a row in terms of losses before that. One of them was Askren, once he got that back, and then Narcoon twice before that, before his long run that dated back when ended in 2018, but it went all the way back to 2010. A long run there through Jesse Taylor and Kendall Grove and Melvin Manhoff and Materla himself and Luke Barnett and Manikowski and others. It went on and on and on, seemingly forever. And I don't think, like Khalidov now, let me just see what age he's 42 years of age. He can't have too long left in him, and I don't think he'll want to end his career in this sort of way. I think if he can get back in his career in like a 2-1 run, I don't know if this will be the end for him, but I think it's the sort of thing that it could be a good way to go out on if he won this big fight here. Like Pudzianowski is 45, but I think he'd be fighting for another while yet. And he's been on such a great run. He beat Bombardier 2 fights ago as well, after beating Materla and Erko Gun a few fights before that. He's always fought good guys. I saw him fighting in Dublin back in 2017 against Jay Silva, and he's beat Hollis Gracie and Ollie Thompson, Sean McCorkle back in the day, even Bob Sapp, after fighting Tim Sylvia in 2010. So he's been around since 2009. It's been a long time around for Pudzianowski as well. And look, I think he kind of set his career in stone with that win over Materla last time out, if I'm being honest. I think that was a real change of moment. But this is like turning him from a person who people developed a respect for because of the last win, to a person people start to think of like, hold on, actually, this guy is actually a really, really good fighter. If you can beat Materla and Khalidov 2 fights in a row, that's different level. That's a very, very, very good level. So I'm interested to see like if he can do that and what the talk is afterwards. But as I said, the fight itself, look, Khalidov, he'll be trying to kickbox Pudzianowski and not get hit. I think Pudzianowski, and look, we talked about coming into the Materla fight, he'll be able to trying to get the fight down to the ground. He'll be able to, get on top and not get him off him, and he's going to win it that way. And that's probably the same case here. But in that fight, he ended up hitting him with a big right hand and knocking him out. And that is the interesting part for kind of both of them, I suppose. I already said it about Khalidov, the fact that I suppose the fact that he has to be a little bit more careful. Pudzianowski now can, I suppose, play it both ways. If Khalidov is expecting the big shot in terms of the big punch, maybe the big shot in terms of the big wrestling shot is now open for Pudzianowski. He can take the fight to the ground and win it that way. Now, it's weird to say that, I suppose, like it's detailed, a semi-detailed game plan for such a big brute of a man. But why not? Why not play into that? Why not play into your last wins and what they might do for you in this fight? Absolutely, you should do that, and I think you will do that. I'll be interested to see the betting odds on this. I don't think they're out yet, and I'll be very, very interested to see them if they do come on. Let me just look up here to see if they are out yet. I don't believe they are, but I think Khalidov will probably be the favourite here. And if he's not, we can talk about it more. But I do think, look, it'd be easy for me to come in and say, Pudzianowski's going to do the same again to Khalidov what he did to Materla. But I think Khalidov will win, and I think he will have too much skill. I think he'll be used to, he's fought some big men, like Askren is a big man, not as big as this man. No one is as big as this man, but I think he has the ability to kind of snipe him from the outside and land the shots he needs to land to take the decision over Pudzianowski. The longer it goes as well, you would have to think that would benefit Khalidov. But like you look at as well, Phil de Vries is there at the heavyweight division, and the winner of this could fight him. If it's Pudzianowski, the legitimate heavyweight, what a massive fight that would be for KSW. So I suppose for years you would have said Khalidov is the guy that KSW want to win all these fights. Maybe now it's Pudzianowski. Maybe now it's turned, and it is Pudzianowski who they want to win this. Look, they put them both in there, made the best man win, and I can't wait for this. I just about going for Kaladov. I picked Materla last time as well for the same reason. Maybe I'll be a fool twice in a row, but I'm going to go for Kaladov here. Right, let's move on and go through the rest of the card. The Bantamweight title is next up. And now, look, before we get into this, please forgive me for my my terrible pronunciations here. But there is 2 title fights under this massive main event. As I said, the Bantamweight one first, Sebastian Privska against Jakub Wiklak. This is the 3rd time they have fought. Just went back and watched the first of their fights, actually. I couldn't find the second one before this. I actually saw the ending of the second one. I couldn't find the whole fight before this, but they're 1-1. They in the series so far. Jakub won the first one via decision. Sebastian won the second one. In that first fight, Jakub Wiklak, he had the fight on the ground for long periods, and he was kind of dominating on top. And he took the back a few times, maybe almost got a submission a couple of times throughout it. But Sebastian's a very, very good wrestler. A very good submission artist himself. Jakub is slightly, probably better wrestler, and maybe not even slightly. But towards the end of that fight, Sebastian almost got the finish. He was landing big ground and pound. When he did get on top, he was attacking a lot more. And that seems to happen a lot. You know, that could be an issue for Kaladov here as well. If he does get on bottom, that might be an issue. But for Sebastian, when he was actually, when he was on top, he was really, really good, as was Jacob. But when Jacob got on bottom, because he was the dominant wrestler throughout the fight, he struggled badly. And I just wonder if Sebastian can get on top more in this one, you know? And if he does, if he can win that wrestling battle, if he can win the scrambles, I think that's what this fight will come down to. We saw the big body punch in the second fight. Privska is a very, you know, he's a well-rounded fighter. Jakub more of the wrestler, dominant guy on the ground. Privska 7-1 KSW with 5 finishes. Beat Rakic to win the belt last time out, or not last time out, but 3 fights ago, has 2 title defenses since that. Beat Rakic on the feet, you know, which not a lot of people do. Good boxing, you know, good wrestling, good all around. Well, got submissions in the last 2, which doesn't surprise me because of how good he is on top. You know, very, very calm in all areas, even when he has the back taken. He is, you know, he always fights out of it. Wiklak, on the other hand, then, you know, he took the fight to the ground. Very good wrestler, very good submissions, but his submission game maybe didn't look as good against someone like Sebastian. I'll just go with Sebastian for that one. As a guillotine, loves the back triangle, as we saw in that first fight. 3-1 in KSW, has a submission in there as well, can go all day. Look, this one comes down to, I think, 2 things. If Sebastian keep it on the feet, I think he's a little bit better. Although in that first fight, it was a good while ago now, but there was a lot of back and forth, both of them throwing absolute hammers at each other, and there wasn't much of a difference in it, to be honest. But I think he is probably a better fighter now. Wiklak better on the ground in that fight, but because he won the scrambles, if Sebastian keep it on the feet for a long time, if he can win a couple of scrambles, I think he can. I think he can win the fight, and that's my pick there. I'm going for Sebastian Privska. I hope I pronounced that right. The light heavyweight title. This fight was supposed to happen back at KSW 75, I think it was. So I've broken this down before. I'd probably break it down differently now, but it is Ibrahim Shugaviez, whose name I just absolutely destroyed. Chushiguyev, that's how you say it. Chushiguyev against Ivan Iverslan, whose name I also probably destroyed. Ibrahim, very good technical striker with knockout power. Good submissions, good head and arm choke, shows everything with his power. One thing I noticed watching him, very, very good leg kicks. He's making his first title defense here. As I said, this fight was supposed to happen in October, couldn't get into the country. He beat Narkun for the title, who we mentioned earlier, is a very, very good fighter. Had fought in ACA previously. He'll be looking for the knockout here, I'm sure. He can, very good cardio, can go all day, keeps going at the same place, and is a finisher. He absolutely is. Arslan 3-1 in KSW with all finishes in his wins. Second shot at the belt after losing to Narkun. Like, he'll be coming in looking for the finish as well. I think this is going to be a very, very long fight. I think maybe, either guy can finish it. I think Ibrahim will win the decision if it goes there. And that's kind of my kind of breakdown of it. I think Ibrahim will win the fight. I think he has kind of maybe more ways. If Arslan can keep it a kickboxing match, it could be 50-50, but that wrestling, the ability on the ground may just kind of favour Ibrahim a little bit with his submission artistry as well in that one. Right, I'll run quickly through the rest of the fights here. Daniel Ruszkowski against Lomaki Eshkoya. 14-3 against 25-1. Daniel has a big highlight reel head kick KO. He's a Polish champion, Greco-Roman wrestler. Shout out to my guy Sean Dinny as well. Give me all this info. He's absolutely the best. Follow him over at Dinny Rants for all the updates on this. He's really, really great at running through all of this, and he is really the expert in this field. Very good kickboxer now though as well, Ruszkowski. Going back and watching him, like, sometimes you wouldn't, you might forward, and what I like to do sometimes, forward into the middle of the fight, and you wouldn't know a guy is a wrestler sometimes if you see him kickboxing, and that's a very, very good thing to say, I suppose, about someone. He's only lost in KSW was the Parnas for the title, he's a very, very, very good fighter all around and can keep going all day. Lomali is out of the UFD gym, trains with Soldic, and there's 2-0 in KSW. Good wrestler, good submissions, improving kickboxing, I would say. Ruszkowski, will probably be the favourite to win this if it stays on the feet. If it goes to the ground, Lomali will be the one going for even enough matchup on paper. I'd probably just go for Ruszkowski there. Everyone like Milmek then, he's back in this. He's fighting Andrzej Gizbik. Andre is a good fighter. 18-6. He's an exciting, I suppose would be the word for him. He lost, he's lost his last 2, I think, in a row. Good kickboxer, will land big shots. Apparently he's very good personality. People like him a lot as well. Emil Mek, we all know what he's like. He goes out and he throws big shots. He's a good, well-rounded fighter, but with issues. I suppose Anja will be the favourite coming in. Another one where maybe Mek will have the advantage on the ground if it hits the ground. An interesting fight as well. 8-2 and 8-1 in the next fight. Patrick Kazmarach against Pascal Hitzen. Patrick is a skills fighter, I suppose you'd put it that way. He is very well rounded, good wrestler, good on top, good striker. Pascal, on the other hand, in another guy coming out of the UFD gym. He's more of a wrestler and a submission guy. Fought in the IMAFs as an amateur. So yeah, it's another probably 50-50 fight there. One guy I'm very interested in is Karl McNally, who's on this card as well. He's fighting Sharad Erzankuyev. McNally, obviously coming out of Ireland, he's 2-0, fighting the 1-0 Shamad. Being a 1-0, I suppose he is a bit untested so far. Good wrestler with submissions. Karl McNally, if you don't know him, he is known for being a flashy submission artist. He goes for everything. He's lots of experience as an amateur. I think he's one of those guys that maybe never thought he'd have these big events to fight on, and it's great to see. I think McNally will have the advantage here. His submissions are very hard for anyone to deal with, and it'll be interesting to see if he can get the win here. There's an 8-0 and a 5-0 undefeated guys fighting here. The names are going to kill me, like Bogdan against Madeleine. Bogdan fighting out of the Ukraine. He's 1-0 in KSW. 5-second KO, I think it went around a bit. Knockout specialist, finishing artist. Madeleine then fighting out of Romania. Knockout artists as well. Someone's probably getting knocked out here. Just two lads trying to take the heads off each other. We have Jan Lias, who's 8-1 against Adrian Gralak, 5-0. Rematch from a couple of was it KSW 75 maybe? There was an accidental eye poke. Gralak fighting out of WCA Warsaw, very good kickboxer with power and improving wrestling. Lias is another guy fighting out of or who has fought in the IMAFs, even good submissions, good on the ground. He'll probably be the favourite here, maybe to get a submission. And the last fight on the card, Patrick Likas, 3-1, who's a very good prospect coming through against Michael Doman. Very good striker is Likas. He's from the area of Poland where this card is on. 2-1 in KSW, one big spinning back elbow KO. Has an amateur loss to the brother of Michael Domin, Pavel. So that's an interesting one here. Domin is looking for his second win in KSW. He's 1-2 there at the moment. Well-rounded fighter, maybe not the best fighter in the world. Likas should have the winning of this one on the feet, I would say. So all in all, a pretty good card with this mad, insane headliner. It should be really, really fun. If you're not tuning, if you're not excited for Budzianowski versus Kaladov, you probably don't like fun, and I definitely like fun. So looking forward to this, and I will leave it there. Thanks everyone for listening. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.